He left a successful career on Wall Street so he could set the record straight on cable news. He did such a great job that even President Trump noticed and asked for his help. Now, he's become a champion for American nationalism and a proud spokesman for the deplorables. He's Steve Cortes, and this is the Steve Cortes Show on AM 560. The Answer.
Turn up the lights in here, baby. Extra bright, I want y'all to see this. Turn up the lights in here, baby. You know what I need. Want you to see everything. Want you to see everything.
It's Friday, and it's 6 o'clock. And that means that it's the happiness hour on the Steve Cortes Show. Doesn't mean we talk only happy topics, but it means we talk in a broad sense about how to be a happy person, how to be a well-rounded person. And so we take a break from politics. Man cannot live by bread alone. He can't live by politics alone. We take a break from politics and talk other issues, sports, movies, how to be a better person, how to be a better father, education, all those kinds of things. By the way, I got a funny text during the break. My wife apparently is listening to the show. It's nice that she listens, I guess. But she said, you just described me as a money-hungry wife. Because in the previous segment, I was talking to our guest, General Rob Spalding, and I said, you could have made a fortune with your credentials consulting to businesses in China. Instead, you chose to warn us about China, and really, in that way, made yourself almost unhireable. And I said, my wife might have been mad about that. So my wife said, you described me as a money-hungry wife. But here's the really funny part. Here's what she then said next. Dang spot on. She said, so you correctly called me a money-hungry wife. She says guilty as charged. But listen, we're going to talk about movies. Something that maybe you want to see with your wife if it's going to be a bleak, cold weekend. Maybe you don't like football. Maybe you don't watch the Super Bowl and you want to watch a couple of movies. And we have a terrific guest who's been a previous guest on the show, Mr. Jacob Airy. He is a movie reviewer for Daily Wire, among other sites. And he is going to talk about a couple of Netflix films for us. And the first one is Fall from Grace. So, Jacob, thank you for joining Steve Cortes Show. And please give us your thoughts on Fall from Grace.
Well, thank you for having me back on, Steve. A Fall from Grace is a Tyler Perry film, and he's kind of had mixed results with his thrillers. Not very many people like them. They prefer his comedies, but I personally enjoyed this one. It was a Netflix exclusive, and it's about a woman who is accused of murdering her husband. She is kind of a middle-aged woman in her early 50s, and she marries this younger guy who's like in his 20s, and then he steals her identity, and she kills him, and she gets put up with this public defender who wants to
Jacob, can I stop you for one sec? Only because I haven't seen it, but just from reading the reviews, and I don't want to give anything away here. No spoiler alert needed. But when you say she kills him too, it's pretty brutal. Doesn't she beat her own husband to death with a bat?
Basically, yes. Okay. And they do show this, so I would not watch this with your kids.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
But it's still a very interesting film. It's enthralling. It's no old school M. Night Shyamalan, obviously, but it's a very good film. It's very enthralling. It keeps you entertained, and it has this amazing climax that you just don't see coming.
Okay.
So I do highly recommend it. It's good just for sitting, like you were saying. You kind of want to watch something more serious. You're not into the Super Bowl. It's just perfect for turning on Netflix, and there it is.
Okay, cool. It's funny. People who don't like football, it's also a great time to go out to restaurants. My wife and I always do that. I won't watch the Academy Awards, even though I'm actually, as we talked about last time you were on, I'm actually into the Academy Awards. I like to know who wins and all that sort of thing, but I won't actually watch because of all the political nonsense. It's a great time to go out to dinners during the Academy Awards because so much of the world is watching. I'm sure it's the same with the Super Bowl. If you want to go out to a movie or go out to dinner and you don't care about the game, it's a great time to do it. Although this is a Netflix one, so you're not going to the theaters for that. Okay, and then tell me, and this one I read more about. I haven't seen either one, but the next one you want to tell us about, this is a really intriguing film. Also not a feel-good film in a lot of ways, but a really intriguing film. Also Netflix, Tell Me Who I Am. Tell us about this film.
So this is actually a documentary made by Ed Perkins, who's done a couple of other documentaries, and it's about these two twin brothers named Alex and Marcus. And Alex, he's involved when he's 18. He's involved in a motorcycle accident, and he loses his memory. And his brother Marcus, kind of paints this idea that they have this typical idyllic British family upbringing and whatnot. But then after their parents dies, Marcus
and Jacob, this is true. This is a true documentary.
This is a true story.
Okay, please go ahead. Okay.
They actually wrote a book about it, which is what the documentary is based on.
Okay.
And Marcus is forced to reveal that he and Alex didn't exactly have the idyllic childhood that he had painted, and it just causes Alex's world to crash, and of course Marcus, because he has to reveal these very, very dark secrets. And it's an incredible documentary. It's a very interesting case study about these two twin brothers and about how one feels betrayed that the other one lied to him. And it's just this incredible story about finding out that your family isn't perfect. In fact, your family is quite terrible, and just the fallout from everything that happened about that. But I highly recommend it. Incredible imagery, amazing camera work. The music is spot on. I can't remember who did the music for the film, but he did an excellent job. Just through the music, you feel kind of every emotion that happens as these brothers are being interviewed. And it's very simple. It's just the brothers being interviewed, and then it's kind of interlaced with photographs from their childhood.
Oh, really? So they don't do a lot of sort of on-the-scene shoots? It's more really just in a room?
Yeah, so the two brothers are separated and they're being interviewed, and it's kind of interlaced with photographs and a handful of reenactments, but not really that many.
Okay. No, this is one that I do want to see. Although again, it's certainly not a. You didn't bring us two feel-good films this time, but that's fine. Look, a lot of times things that are deep and meaningful. Like I said, it's not called the happiness hour because it means we're just going to pretend to be happy for an hour. It means deeper happiness, and art is part of that certainly. So we want to talk about great books. We want to talk about film. We talk about some silly stuff as well. We're going to talk about how to make money on the Super Bowl. So believe me, I'm not trying to be all profound this entire hour. We're going to talk about some silly stuff too. But back to this. Tell Me Who I Am. This documentary. So incredible to me because, truth can be stranger than fiction, right? And incredible to me that he truly, because of his motorcycle accident, truly lost all memory and didn't remember that they had actually a horrific childhood, badly sexually abused by their own mother, who actually facilitated them being sexually abused by other people as part of basically a child predator gang. So literally like the darkest kind of stuff you could ever think of, he didn't remember it. And what a struggle it must have been for his brother, though. Like, right? Like, well, do you reveal everything? Is it better to let him live in bliss? A fascinating conundrum there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be clear to your audience, it does have a kind of a happier ending when all things are kind of set on the table. Mm-hmm. So just to ease their mind a little bit, just for your happiness hour.
Yeah, but, and now speaking of that, on a lighter note, since it is Super Bowl weekend, football movies. What's the best football movie ever, Jacob Berry?
Now, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying this movie is Citizen Kane. But in my personal opinion, the best football movie is 2000's Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans from Walt Disney. Right. It was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who also did a whole plethora of films, and it stars Denzel Washington and a whole other bunch of actors. It's just got what do they call it, an ensemble cast. Right. And it's an incredible story. Now, I found out doing research that the history of the movie is not exactly accurate. Correct. But for the sake of it being a movie, it's a fantastic football film. It's my personal favorite football movie. And so if people would rather watch a movie about football instead of the Super Bowl, or watch one in preparation for the Super Bowl, highly recommend Remember the Titans. I believe it's streaming on Disney+.
I do love Remember the Titans, and I've looked into it quite a bit just because I thought it was such an enthralling story. And you're right, it's not very accurate, but regardless, it's a really, really entertaining film, and definitely unlike those other two, totally family-friendly, a lot of fun, great soundtrack. It's terrific. Mine, because I had to chirp in, it's my show, Jacob. I'm going to say the best ever, although also sad, like those other films, is Brian's Song, but I'm also a Chicago Bears fanatic, so Brian's Song is my favorite. 13 years ago when the Bears were in the Super Bowl, I said to I then had 3 daughters, and I said, we're going to watch Brian's Song to sort of get you ready. You need to know about the past of the Bears, and I put it in, and I cried like such a baby that they were so embarrassed. We didn't even finish watching the film. It's that moving. The original one, by the way, the one with Billy D. Williams and James Caan. Jacob Berry, I so appreciate you being our guest. Up next, we're going to talk about buying a home.